Hey, it's Riley Bowman with ConcealedCarry.com, and I'm really excited to be sitting here with Brandon Scott from Culper Precision, and really excited to talk to you about their new pistol bringing to market that is unlike anything that you'll see out there in terms of pistol technology. I mean, and this is a project that has been ongoing for some time now, and we're going to let Brandon tell a story about that. But what we're talking about here is the Culper Precision Atomic 6, which is, you see right here, we've got a Glock 19 pistol with carbon fiber laid into the steel slide, making this the lightest Glock 19 you'll find.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's get into it. In fact, we're just gonna set that down there.
Great.
But so the Atomic 6, Brandon, like, you got to tell us first of all, like, what made
the
you
heck
think,
is this thing?
You know, like, okay, hey, you know what? Well, you just wake up one morning and you're like, I'm going to put carbon fiber in the slide of a Glock 19.
Basically, it's not that far. So what started all of this was Koenigsegg with their 1-to-1. And there's a documentary that I watched that was kind of following Christian through the development of the 1-to-1. And the kind of the ultimate hypercar of all hypercars. And I've always just had a thing for carbon fiber. I think that I love it because it has so many different properties. Like, from an engineering perspective, it's ultra light, it's ultra strong, it's moldable. There's a million different things that you can do with it, right? Yeah. But then from like an aesthetic point of view, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and you can get it in a multiple of different weaves and patterns and all of that kind of stuff, where you can really kind of deliver a flavor to whatever it is that you're making out of carbon fiber. And then the other thing is, because like the history of carbon fiber in guns, like for me personally, it all started with the Bushmaster Carbon 15, right? Yeah. It's an AR-15 that got a really bad rap. I don't know, like, mine was perfect. I loved mine. It was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal firearm, a phenomenal AR-15. It was perfect for, like, trekking way out into the desert, right, and shooting Yotes with. But it got a bad rap because of one reason or another. But then you have companies like Christensen come along, and you have Proof Research come along, and they're just kind of taking carbon to the next level. And that's been where I kind of fell in love with carbon fiber, and especially carbon fiber for guns, is in building precision bolt action rifles using Proof Research carbon fiber wrap barrels, and just seeing just what they were able to do with these things, just how repeatable these barrels are, and just the massive standard of engineering and craftsmanship that went into them. And so ever since, like, buying my first Proof, I've just been super hot about carbon fiber, and I just want to make everything out of carbon fiber. And it's kind of funny because this came along with this was a project that me and my VP of engineering at the time, we had been discussing this for maybe 6-8 months, and playing around. Like, we'd stay after and we'd kind of play around with some designs. We'd play around with some ideas and some concepts of, like, what could we do? And we research, and we've been watching videos, and we're, buying training and reading everything that we can about it. And then he had some connections with some guys in Utah that are a pretty big deal in the carbon fiber world, with, they're doing a lot of the design and engineering on a lot of these bike projects that you hear coming out right now and stuff like that. And so we started connecting up with these guys, and we started just building little small parts, right? So we started with just like some little, like, RMR covers, and like, how do we do this, and how do we approach this, and how do we get the finishes that we want? And then we'd been kind of tinkering with this for quite some time. And then we're sitting down to lunch one day with Flux Defense, and we're starting to get, like, a little bit serious about this, and we kind of pitched the idea to them, like, what do you think about this? And they just got stoked. And I mean, if you met the guys from Flux Defense today, they're just super cool guys, really, really smart, really intelligent guys. I mean, they've just hit the nail on the head with their product, the Flux Brace. And so they're good friends of ours. We do a lot of work with them, and so just at lunch with them, with the reaction that they saw to it, we're like, well, maybe there's something here. And so we started diverting a significant amount of our time and attention into developing the Atomic 6. And it gets its name, Atomic 6, because the atomic number, if you remember back in high school, the periodic table of the elements.
That's a while ago.
The atomic number of carbon is 6. And so that's where it gets its name. Is, it's like, well, do we call it the Culper carbon or do we call it the Atomic 6? And I kind of liked the atomic direction and especially as it applies to defense and defensive firearms and stuff like that. And so then we started hard charging down this road and really learning and understanding and so we started by, of course, modeling and designing everything in the computer and utilizing some of these engineering resources to make sure, like, how much of this weight can we, because like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, if we can make a Glock that's half as light, or a Glock slide that's half as light as its predecessor, right, the factory Glock 19, then awesome. So we start going after every single little gram that we can pull out of this thing. And still make it work right. And it's been just a phenomenal learning process. And, I've learned more about firearms and firearms manufacturing from executing this project than I think I could have learned in any other way. I mean, our long conversations with Alan at Springco, learning about recoil mitigation and learning about spring systems and recoil systems that, it was just like this master class in spring design every single time we'd talk to him. And then, we're meeting with our carbon fiber reps that are talking with, their other clients are like Boeing and, ATK and like these huge carbon fiber guys. And, they're gracious enough to kind of, spend the time with us as a small company and get us educated. And then we started, playing around with some testing, and we started testing a bunch of different manufacturers of carbon fiber. And we started, so basically how we would do it is, we'd take a little ball nose end mill and we'd cut just like a trough into a piece of steel, and we'd try different methods of curing the carbon fiber and bonding the carbon fiber in there, and then we'd try and destroy it and take it out of there, and to see what kind of because we had some ideas for how we wanted to approach, because we knew that, like, when you're talking about coefficients of thermal expansion between carbon and steel, like they expand when they heat up, they expand at different rates. And so, the big stress is like, we need to make sure that under no circumstance does the carbon separate from the steel. And so there was a significant amount of engineering that went into figuring out, the coefficients of thermal expansion between the steel that we're using and the carbon fiber that we're using, and testing different carbon fibers as we heat them up and abuse them and try and get them out of the plates. And we found this. This is called the 12K prepreg, which means you have 12,000 individual strands per toe. And it's pre-impregnated with the resin, and the resin that we're using is specifically designed to have good chemical adhesion to steel. And so we started by just cutting a little trough, and we'd press it in there and heat it up and cure it, and then we'd take chisels and hammers and try and get it out. And with this particular product that we found out of Southern California, you can't get it out of there. Like with hammers and chisels and all, so you have to remove metal in order to get it out of there.
We pretty much have carbon fiber and steel, like it's as if it's the same piece.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Well, and that's the thing is, like, the end product here, you see basically, 3 or 4 different shape profiles of the carbon fiber, but there's actually 13 different shape profiles of carbon fiber that are all laid up in a specific engineered manner in order to fill what we remove in steel. And I've got, for instance, for this particular model, I've got 30,000 pounds of compression, around 60,000 pounds of tension, as far as the way that the layup has been engineered and the way that we're kind of bonding that carbon fiber to that steel. And then once we had a slide that was successfully bonded, then it was, let's go and let's talk to all of these other companies. Because, like, when we were first thinking, like, the trend these days in firearms manufacturing, especially in custom Glock manufacturing, is like, well, I'm going to build something and I'm going to put my name all over it, right? Which means I'm going to build the trigger, I'm going to build the internals, I'm going to build the lower, I'm going to build the upper, I'm going to build everything. Or we're going to modify Glock factory components into our spec, right? To improve the performance or to improve whatever it is that you're searching for, right? And one of the things that I really wanted to do with this project, and really the core message and the core behind this Atomic 6 project is as a proof of concept, because we have this amazing technology. And it's a little bit of a history lesson. So I heard this story about Browning collaborating with FN to build the FAL, right?
Sure.
And it happened at a very important time in history, and it happened at a very important time in the history of FN, and basically essentially saved the company because these two massive manufacturers were collaborating to build a firearm. And then that story kind of got me looking into a little bit more of the history of firearms, and I started studying with a good friend of mine and basically just listening to him tell stories about the good old days and of firearms collaboration. And we started looking at all these different models. And like back then, it was always something new and groundbreaking and amazing. And it's because of the collaboration effort between these multiple companies. Because one of the big things I think that we're missing in the firearms industry these days is that collaboration. People talk about it all the time when they compare like the firearms industry to like technology, right? You have all these companies that are licensing each other's technologies and strategies and algorithms and all this kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, it makes for a better product for us, the consumer. And when you look at the history of firearms, and especially when there was these massive developments in firearms, it was the same thing. All these companies are working together. They're sharing their manufacturing parts and pieces and sharing technologies and licensing technologies between each other. And at the end of the day, it's just better for the consumer. It's better for us, the consumer. Yeah. And it's better for us as being in the industry because there's just better firearms and there's better engineering and there's more interesting stuff to enjoy. And so that's like my whole focus with this project is and not only that, but like for we're a very small company. We're 6 dudes, and we're 6 dudes running a custom shop. And so like when I started looking at what kind of finances is it going to take to do all the modeling and the engineering and stuff to build the lower? What kind of finances is it going to take to do all the modeling and engineering and testing and everything of the trigger system and the trigger bar and the shoe, and then all competition internals and skeletonizing and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, so I could either do what so many others are doing, and I could just go and like buy these parts and kind of rip them off and change them and do it. But at the end of the day, like I want to spread this message and be the, and kind of like start by collaboration. And so we started by collaborating with Andy at Nomad Defense, who builds this amazing Glock lower, which for me solved all the problems that I have with the factory Glock lower, right? I've got these big old meat hooks for hands. And so anytime I put my hand on a factory Glock lower, even with some of the new Dovetails, like, I get this chunk of skin up over the Dovetail and I have a scar to prove it. And so every time, every time I'm shooting my Glock, it's biting the crap out of me. And it's not, and eventually it's just like, well, I don't want to shoot my Glock anymore, But Andy, he preserved all the excellent things that that Glock has figured out with their factory lower in the Nomad Defense lower. But then he adds this nice deep dovetail. He has interchangeable back straps, and he has the enhanced glove bevel in the trigger guard.
Right.
He has thumb indexing cuts, right? But he added all of these really neat, kind of really thoughtful upgrades to the
it's
Glock
a great
lower.
frame. I mean, it feels amazing, and I actually, it's a very small thing, but the front being kind of flatter and wider like it is feels really good to me.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it just feels good.
Well, and with the adjustable back straps, because in our custom shop, one of the big things that guys want to come in and do is they want us to change the geometry of
grip reduction,
the grip angle, the grip reduction. Whereas with the Nomad lower, it's as simple as pushing that pin and swapping it out.
Yep.
And it's just that easy. And in fact, we did that several times today during industry at the range where guys, had bigger hands. It's just like, well, just pull out the tool. Boop.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden
you get something a little more akin to like a 1911 style M&P, or you want to make it that good aggressive, Glock style.
Yeah. Well, because how many people, I hate Glock because I just can't deal with, they don't, like, frankly, they don't point it correctly because it doesn't complement their body mechanics. But that's what's awesome about what Andy's done here with this Nomad Defense frame. And so it's like, okay, so instead of spending all of this money and all this time and all this effort just to be able to put my name on it, Andy's a small company, but he's building awesome stuff. So let's collaborate with him to build this gun together. And then you have companies that are, much larger than Culper Precision and Nomad Defense, like Apex.
So we got an Apex trigger.
Mm-hmm, yep. And the Apex trigger, like, I have this love-hate relationship with the Apex trigger because from an aesthetic point of view, like
it's kind of chunky.
It's kind of chubby, and I got a lot of chubby in my life, you know. But at the end of the day, like when you've got a guy that wants reliability, which that's the name of the game with Glock is reliability, and so at the end of the day, oh, by the way, this is a completely inert firearm. The firing pin has been shaved down. There is absolutely no way.
And we did verify that before we actually started filming here.
We
so,
did. Yeah,
so
this has been on the range all day today.
Yeah, this was a gun that was on the range as a display model, and it's still in that configuration. So,
exactly.
So if you see something here that you're like, oh man, no worries.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just real quick, I mean, so you've been kind of going through the different companies that you've collaborated with. We got the Nomad Defense frame, got an Apex trigger, and by the way, back to the frames real quick. I'll bet some of you guys that are not Glock fans, I'll bet I could have you close your eyes and stick this in your hand and you would not recognize it for what it is.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And especially, with little configure. It's like, oh, well, what do you like to shoot? Oh, I like to shoot the HK. I like to shoot the 1911, or I am a Glock guy through and through. I have that information at first. I push that pin, I put the right thing on, and then all of a sudden you put that in your hand, and it's like, oh, this is familiar to me, right? And that familiarity, that breeds accuracy, right? At least in my experience, if you're shooting something that you're uncomfortable with, and it's there's that hurdle that you have to overcome, and then you start getting into the accuracy portion of it. So, and then you have of course Zev that just builds phenomenal competition internals, and so we're sourcing all the upper internals and stuff like that are all Zev competition internals, and then the slide and the barrel is something that we build.
Nice.
And so
so we see that nice little CXP Culper Precision.
That's us.
Branding on the barrel there. I like the 9mm designation is kind of fun. It actually shows a 9mm cartridge.
Yeah.
Pretty hard to miss that.
80, like it's sized down. It's to scale. It's about 87% of scale.
Yeah. Of course, this is already optics ready. We've got a little optic plate there in place right now. Yeah. We saw it in the range today with the SRO, the RMR, Holosun.
507.
Yep. Trijicon sights, night sights.
Yeah. So we're a custom shop, so it's your choice of suppressor high or Trijicon HDs. If you're not going to shoot with an optic, then don't put suppressor highs on it. Sure.
Yeah. That's fantastic, man. So we got Zeph internals, Apex trigger, Nomad frame, your guys' slide, barrel, Trijicon sights. So, and then also Recoil Spring.
By Springco.
Yep. Which, I mean, that's part of the magic of this, obviously. So it's time we got to give you some love, brother. So back to what you've done.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, I like my story here is about the collaboration and like. Look at what a cool thing that we built because, we want to give love to all these companies and, all these guys are building such cool stuff that it made it so that I could focus on what I wanted to do of building a co-cured carbon fiber Glock slide, the lightest Glock slide in the world, right? So from us when you purchase the Atomic 6, it's going to come with everything that you see here in this awesome Nanic case. That's been we have custom foam and everything like that inside of there, and then we laser all the details there on the top of it. And then it comes with two stainless steel match grade target crowned box fluted barrels that are fully supported chambers, good solid.
Two.
Yes, yeah. So threaded and non-threaded.
Gotcha. Cool. Good
because finding the right compensator for this, which we have. We're working on some partnerships with compensators right now that eventually we would like to be able to offer it to where it's like you can choose between a couple of different triggers, you can choose between a couple of different sights, you can choose between a couple of different comps and stuff to really build something that's your own, because that's our roots is as a custom shop, right? And so then there's the Atomic slide, that co-cured carbon fiber. So we've removed about 43% of the weight of the slide.
It's almost half.
Almost half. I really was trying to go for half. We went after every single gram that we could, and 50% is just too much.
Sure. Well, now let's talk about some of those numbers there real quick. You took 43% of the weight out of the slide of the Atomic 6. So where does that leave us in terms of the weight of this gun?
So as it sits right now, no magazine with a full threaded barrel, you're at 16.7 ounces of weight, which compared to a Glock 43 at 16.4 ounces, it's darn near a Glock 43.
Did you just say Glock 43?
43, yes. Not 43X.
Okay,
43.
so we have here a Glock 19 that weighs 0.3 ounces more than a Glock 43. Not a 43X, not a 48. This thing weighs lighter than a 43X and a 48.
Yes.
It weighs almost the same as a Glock 43.
Yeah. And so like, and that's the big thing is like, people are like, oh, well, you took all that weight out of the slide.
Sure.
So when I'm shooting it, it's got to just beat the tar out of me, you know?
Right.
And it's like, well, no, because like people shoot 43 and 43X all day long, right?
And the reality is you actually have more to hold on to here, more grip, surface area.
Which is going to reduce your felt recoil.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That's a great point. I mean, people shoot those small guns all the time. Yes, we know they're snappy. Now, I shot this today for the first time. I think it's fair to say this is snappy, but I want to be careful about how you interpret my word snappy.
Snappy, not punishing. That's fair.
Because when I say snappy, here's the thing. It's not snappy in a bad way. In fact, I would describe it as being snappy in a good way. And what do I mean by that? And I think that's part of, we need to get into kind of the why, Brandon. Why that's relevant is when we remove weight from the slide of a pistol, keep in mind that the thing that moves, the thing that reciprocates is this up here. That's going back and forth every time you fire the gun. This sits over top of your hand, and particularly when this hits its most rearward travel position, this is actually over top of the hand. And so why our hands do this when we're shooting is because this is all...
You have a fulcrum right here.
Exactly.
And a lever.
Exactly. And not only that, that lever is above the hand and it extends over top of the hand. And so this is pulling that just like that. And so when we remove weight from what's reciprocating, we then transfer energy into the recoil system, which is actually sitting lower.
Right.
And that's going into the locking lug of the pistol. So that energy there's more energy transferred through the gun down here. So we're going to have a flatter shooting gun. We're going to have less weight reciprocating. Yes, it increases the slide cycling speed. But here's the thing. What I've learned from shooting, I've put thousands and thousands of rounds, because just for my review for the P365, I'd put over 6,000 rounds through the P365 in my review that I did for that. What I learned about shooting the 365 is that it cycles in such a way that it cycles back and comes forward so fast that you can't even recognize that what just happened.
Yeah.
And it returns right back to where it started. And actually, I believe in the philosophy that it's less about how the gun recoils and more about its predictability or its consistency in its return. Because if you start here and it recoils and then it comes right back to that point, then actually it matters less how much it actually did this if it always comes back to where you started.
Right, because you're cutting down on that recovery time, that recovery from recoil, right? And that's the big thing is like, why take so much, like other than like trying to build something beautiful and trying to build like some combination of artistry and engineering, why? Because at the end of the day, these are defensive tools, right? And that less felt recoil part, and then that faster recoil rate or reciprocal rate, of the slide. I can't quite prove this yet. We've got it scheduled to use some ultra high speed photography. But as we crank our cameras up and really try and understand this and do multiple videos and stuff, what I'm thinking is happening here is that about a quarter of the way or a third of the way through that recoil impulse, that slide has already cycled all the way back and all the way forward. And so recovering from the recoil in such a light slide is so much simpler, and especially to the point where if you've got good solid mechanics, go watch Jerry Mitchell's video on YouTube about why he's shooting like this and not like this anymore, right? If you've got good solid mechanics, then there's almost no recovery. You don't want to say there's almost no recovery, because there's always going to be recovery, right? Because there's just energy going on. But the recovery is so much less than with like the factory or even a lot of precision tuned, especially in the precision tuned Glocks.
Now, you mentioned it, but what you have built here is a work of art.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think so too.
You know, I
I
mean,
love it.
some of you may be kind of not crazy about it. Some of you don't like the way Glocks look, period.
Yeah. Some of you will never shoot a plastic gun.
You know, so it's not for everybody. But yeah, the tactical Tupperware, right? But you know, but I think it's a unique aesthetic, and I think the way it's been blended together. I mean, even these kind of gentle kind of corners and curves and things, in the way that you've machined it and laid in the carbon fiber, I think it's kind of pretty.
Thank you.
You know, in the modern age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's pretty cool, man. So we shot it today. It shot awesome. You know, actually, it was probably the most fun gun to shoot today because I hit the target the most times, I think, with this gun. So
That's all that matters, man.
you know, that says something too. You know, and that could have been too that, you know, we had like the SRO and stuff mounted on a couple of them, and maybe you actually just sight your guns in, you know, better than some of the other guys.
There was one of them that was really off. Okay. At the first in the morning, and we did a little bit of adjustment, and then we were. It was
better. Yeah. So. Brandon, tell folks. I mean, you're making this. I mean, are you actually putting these out there? People are ordering, buying, picking these up.
Yeah, we are in full production right now. So
nice.
We had a limited run of 20 for our limited pre-launch, and we sold out of our limited run.
Nice.
Right now, we're still in the process of delivering those. We've delivered. Like I think it's 4 or 5, something like that. We've got a handful of guns here at SHOT Show. These are all of our test bed firearms that came down here to SHOT Show. And then when we get back, we've got a whole grip of guns like Ready Gunner. Neil and Casey have just been phenomenal in supporting us over the years. So they actually have the limited serial number. So the first 20 were limited serial numbers, numbered guns 1 through 20. And so because of that relationship with Neil, he gets numbers 1 through 5. And so we're going to be delivering those after we've been waiting essentially for SHOT Show and for you know, the unveiling of this firearm before we delivered those, and they're sitting there at the shop, they're ready to be delivered, and so he says that you know, we're going to drop those off on Monday or Tuesday when we're back, and those will be available through Ready Gunner's website and all the rest of the guns. There's been like I say, a little bit more than a handful that's been delivered to customers, and so far those customers are just super pumped. We've done some fun like customization stuff, and so we've gotten to kind of, you know, take the aesthetic a little bit further with what we do with Cerakote and laser on some of these guys, and so it's been really fun. And the feedback that we're getting from our customers is they're putting, you know, we have one gun out there that this guy is super hot about it, and he's put like 5 or 6,000 rounds through his atomic.
Wow. And
he just rants and raves. I mean, we get all kinds of calls from all of his buddies and wondering what they're doing. And so down here at SHOT Show, we've decided. I took a lesson from Ruger essentially. I mean, Ruger doesn't just like, oh hey, we made this, and then sell them, and then we have to make, you know, like the Ruger is really responsible with how they release firearms, and we're trying to kind of, you know, as a small shop that's ramping up our production, we're trying to follow in those footsteps, and so we're only going to offer another 650 for sale. Because as we've scaled up production and stuff like that, I know that I can deliver that inside of 6 months, which is, I believe, an acceptable time frame for something like this. And then once we get through these 650 here that we're here at SHOT Show to sell, and a number of which were sold today, then by that time the hope is to be able to open up for larger and larger orders with larger and larger distributors and some of our good customers,
and to take those next steps to scale up your production some more.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. So that's the plan. But it's just been like the ultimate, like, we've just had so much stinking fun, and like what really I love about this industry is like the more you learn, the more there is to learn. You know, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything. Right. You know, like especially when you're talking about the, you know, recoil science. It's a heck of a thing to grasp. And so you know, and that's what attracts me to this industry is the opportunity to learn and to grow my skills and grow my knowledge base, and as a shop for us to improve, and then just also you know, build something that we love. And so we're excited. We're excited that it was received so well. I mean, we had some gnarly conversations with some big manufacturers that are excited about this technology, and we're going to take those meetings this week, and we've got some awesome stuff coming down the line. And yeah, we're excited to get these out. Thank you to our customers that have ordered these, and those of you that are waiting on these guns. They are going to be in your hands very, very soon. And for those of you that are interested in these guns, next week, hit up Ready Gunner, as he will have the first 5 numbers 1 through 5 of our production model. And yeah.
Of course, you can check things out on culperprecision.com. I encourage you to check out their website. They got a great video too, by the way, kind of showing some of the manufacturing process, the machining, the carbon fiber, all that. So culperprecision.com. Brandon, I'm really excited to see what's coming from you next. And yeah, I think there's...
We're going to do this for a minute, and then, but we've got some stuff.
Something else, yeah, it's coming. Yeah, so stay tuned. Thanks for chatting with me this evening, and guys, till next time, you know what to do. So hit the range, practice, maybe buy a good quality gun, and hopefully get a little bit better. So thanks for watching.